get started. So thank you all so much for being here. We have three DDOT representatives. So obviously Spring Worth, Hunte Kim, and our now covering three wards DDOT Community Liaison, Syra Molina. So thank you all for being here. And the focus of tonight is obviously the 16th Street Northwest Bus Lanes project. The finalized plans were just posted online. I put the link in the chat. And Dottie, it might be difficult for you right now, but for later, I shared the link over the Google email list, and I can send stuff to you too if you need anything printed too. Oh, and Anovia is with DDOT too. Apologies. We have many DDOT folks. Okay, and we have some more people. I'm going to promote the panelists. So tonight, I really just wanted to hand it over to Spring because I know these plans are slightly different from what we saw back in 2018, earlier 2019. And I know I had asked Spring and Syra to focus on any changes that had happened since the last plans. I know I have specific questions about how the intersections around Mount Pleasant and 16th are going to work. That was a topic of conversation earlier. So with that, I'll just hand it right over to you, Spring, and make you a host here so you can share.
It sounds good. Hello, everybody. Good evening. My name is Spring Worth. I'm a project manager at the District Department of Transportation. I was the project manager for the 16th Street Bus Lanes project. As Zach mentioned, we have successfully completed designs, and the design plans for 16th Street are up on the project website that he shared. And we are, the DDOT still anticipates beginning construction this year in 2020. I know some of you may be new to the project, and I thought I could share with you on the website some general information in case you want to go back at some point and take a look and just get familiar with the project. And then also tell you some updates that we've made since we held our last public meeting in July of 2018, and some minor changes that we made in the design. And then I can open it up to questions. And as Zach mentioned, there are several people here on the virtual meeting that are from DDOT. So I was the project manager for the 16th Street Bus Lanes project through this planning's early design phase from 2016 until now. And then we have also Hunte Kim, who's leading the project through the construction phase, and Othman, who's on the line, and he also is one of our engineers who worked on the design, and then our community engagement staff, Syra and Anovia, just so you know who these names are and who the people are that are on the line. So with that, I thought, let me see if I can share my screen. And there's a way that I can go to scrolling down here, see what opens up here. Maybe I need to open up a browser so that I can share it. But what essentially I wanted to share is on our website, we've updated the design, or we've uploaded the designs, and we also have a pamphlet that gives you an overview of the project, just so you can get familiarize yourself with what we're trying to accomplish on the corridor. I'll briefly say that the corridor is 2.7 miles. It's from Arkansas to H Street Northwest. The purpose and need of the project is to improve bus performance and reliability. 16th Street has one of the highest bus riderships in the district, and that corridor has experienced a lot of bus bunching, overcrowding on the buses. And the purpose of this project is to get the buses to travel faster and be more reliable. Let's see. So I have this up. Oh, maybe if I share this, I think it allows me to share Zoom and then share, and then I could change. Are you seeing this?
Yep.
See my screen now? Okay, good. So this is the project website. For those of you that are on the phone, I will try to describe this as best as possible. And if you have any questions, just let me know. And I'm happy to email you after this meeting with the links that I'm sharing. So this gives an overview of the project. You can go here, click here, and it will take you to the design plans. I know Zach shared that, but just in case you haven't seen it, this is where you go. You can also go to the document library, and we have the pamphlet that I just mentioned, which I'll click on in just a second, along with the final design plans. There also is, there also are narrated presentations that provide an overview of the project from earlier years that if you're interested in taking a deeper dive in the project details. So this is the pamphlet, and this gives you a general project overview of what we're trying to accomplish along the 16th Street corridor. I do want to say that, as I mentioned before, that we've completed design, so really happy about that, and we anticipate starting construction. So we're not taking any comments on the designs. We're getting ready to break ground on the corridor. So there have been a couple of small changes since that, since our last public meeting, and that is we originally anticipated putting in hatched, so hatched as in striped bus lanes, like red bus lane, and then like black asphalt, red bus lane, black asphalt on the corridor. But to remain consistent with what you see on other corridors in the district, and also what you see across the country, what the guidelines are, we are putting in full red bus lanes. So similar to Georgia Avenue, we have bus lanes from Georgia Avenue from Florida to Berry, and also on H and I streets downtown, you'll see bus lanes. These bus lanes will be very similar, full red paint. And then the other change that we made during design to accommodate traffic operations is we are starting the PM peak period at 3:30, and it will extend to 7. We originally proposed during the planning process that we would start the PM peak from 4 to 7:30. But we're moving that back just a little bit earlier. It's the same length of time. We're just moving back the start of the PM peak to 3:30 to 7 instead of 4 to 7:30. Beyond that, all of the recommendations that you see in this pamphlet here, so the queue jumps, we're still putting in the queue jumps. We still have transit signal priority along the corridor. We still plan to rebalance the bus stops through bus stop consolidation to help with bus reliability along the corridor. And as you look at the design, our proposed design layout is still the same. So this still remains accurate. Where you see the blue line here is where we will have peak period bus lanes. So the AM peak will be extended by 30 minutes, so 7 to 10 a.m. And then the PM peak is 3:30 to 7. So, and the bus lanes are peak period, peak direction, meaning that in the morning, the bus lane will operate southbound, heading towards downtown from 7 to 10 a.m. And then in the evening, the bus lane will operate in the opposite direction. So going outbound, heading in the direction of Silver Spring from 3:30 to 7. And then there are some left turn restrictions that we shared at the last public meeting and that have been up on our website. Those still remain the same and they're listed here. And we still anticipate beginning construction this year. We've completed the designs. This is the project website. Here's my contact information. And I got all of this from the project website. I think if I go back here, so this is just listed under the document library. And then the final design plans are also listed here. And this provides actually the signage and striping plans for the corridor. As I mentioned before, we're putting in full red bus lanes, similar to what you see. I think it's just taking a second to load. Okay. Similar to what you see on H and I streets and Georgia Avenue. Also on MLK Avenue Southeast, we recently put in bus lanes on that corridor. So you'll see something similar there too. These are just the hatched areas. Instead of doing the whole area hatched, these hatched areas will be for areas of conflict or turns, just to indicate motorists so that they're alert to what's going on. So, and you can go through here, and if there's anything in particular, if you have any questions about the designs, like I said, we've completed the design. We're not making any changes at this point. We're moving forward with construction, and I know we're all really happy about this. It's been, I've been working on the project since 2016, and we're happy to actually complete the designs and move forward with construction. So with that, I will open it up and see if anybody has any questions. Like I mentioned, there's a few other staff from DDOT that are on the line. So if I can't answer your question, someone else from DDOT can help answer questions too.
Thank you so much, Spring. So I know one thing I was wondering if you could walk us through is, I think on the final plans, you see the intersections of Harvard and Columbia. Yep. And I was wondering if you could walk us through those design plans, and also sort of dive into, now that traffic that's headed eastbound will be taking Harvard instead of Irving, what safety mechanisms or what DDOT expects to happen on Harvard and 15th and those surrounding streets.
Yeah, so maybe before I go take a deeper dive, since I'm sharing just for familiarity, I will go back to the left turn restrictions in the pamphlet, and then I'll come back to the designs and we can talk through it a second, just so that everybody's familiar with what we're talking about. So we are restricting some left turns, the left turn at Irving Street. So right now, if you're heading southbound on 16th Street, you can take a left-hand turn onto Irving Street, northwest, like heading towards the Columbia Heights Metro Station. And we are installing a new left turn at Harvard Street. Today, you can't take a left turn onto Harvard Street. But as part of this project, once it's installed, motorists will be able to take a left turn at Harvard Street during the peak periods. And the reason why we put in this left turn at Harvard Street was to accommodate, to ensure that we would have enough space for a bus lane and also to accommodate traffic operations. So if you want to look at all the left turn restrictions, they're here in the pamphlet. I pointed that out, but I just also wanted to say that this is during the AM and PM peak. Now we can go back to the designs and look at what's happening in that intersection. This takes a second to load. See the blue line at the top. I don't know if that's coming through on your end, but I will scroll down. All right. Make it bigger so I can see the cross streets. So we're now in the Logan Circle area and U Street. Euclid, almost there. Fuller. All right, so Columbia Road. So this is the area that, so what we're doing is we're modifying these concrete islands here and extending the road just a little bit by like roughly a foot to allow for the bus lane to be continuous. We are, as I mentioned, so this is Irving, I believe this is, or Harvard. Yeah, this is Harvard Street here, Columbia Road here. And what we're doing is we're adding a left-hand turn so that vehicles can make a left turn onto Harvard Street during the AM and PM peak, which will be important because the restriction, there will be a left turn restriction at 16th and Irving during the AM and PM peak period. And the purpose of that is to accommodate traffic operations and also to accommodate a bus lane through this intersection. This was definitely one of the most challenging intersections on the project corridor and probably in the district at large. And this was a way for us to keep the traffic flowing and also allow a red bus lane to go through this intersection. And to answer your question about the traffic, so we did a detailed traffic analysis for the corridor. And in the prior presentation from 2018, which I can point to if you want to, or you can refer to, we do give some options for, with the left turn restrictions that I pointed out in the pamphlet, other alternative routes that vehicles can take to get to their destination, but it's really up to them. It depends on, you know, where their trip originates and where their final destination is.
And I did want to point out, and thank you. I know something that was a project and something the commissioner before me was pushing for was the continuation of the crosswalk across 16th and Mount Pleasant. And we are very, very happy to see that finally being installed. So thank you for doing that, especially in front of really high density apartment residences.
Yeah, so this is the crosswalk where my cursor is. Yeah, I'm happy about it too. This is a crosswalk here for anybody who's able to see that will install. So you'll be able to cross here to get to Mount Pleasant if you're going to East Peach or you're going to Sun Cinema or wherever you may be going, instead of having to walk up to Columbia Road and then walk all the way over to get over here. So are there any other questions?
Yeah, Spring, could you please go through the safety, the safety additions for that restricted left turn from Park, directing it to the jug handle?
Oh,
the Pine Street Sacred Heart Way.
Yeah. So let's make sure I don't skip over anything. All right, Irving. And then this is where the bus lane picks up for Irving. This is Lamont where the library is. And then Park Road. And this is the jug handle. So let me just give a little background and then we'll hop right back to this. So we are, this is again to preserve the bus lane going northbound. So you'll see here that we have a PM bus only lane going northbound. And we are restricting the left turns onto Park Road. So today you can make a left-hand turn from 16th Street going northbound onto Park Road. But as part of this project, what we're recommending is that vehicles turn down Pine Street Sacred Heart Way, and the jug handle that Christine is referring to is making a right down Pine Street where the church is, just for familiarity, and then making a left onto Park Road. So instead of going this way, we'll go this way and make a left and go up Park Road. So as far as safety, we are adding a crosswalk at this intersection, and we will be monitoring the traffic flow to ensure that vehicles are traveling at a safe speed. The mile per hour, the speed limit is 15, but to ensure that vehicles are traveling at a safe speed, and also to ensure that this works. From our traffic analysis, I think we spoke about this just like a couple of years ago. It looks like this does work, but we will monitor it.
So I guess I'm really, and you know all the concerns I've had, I've made it very clear. I hope you're reading my letters and the resolutions that we've sent out. But I guess, so my issue was, again, like there's been some movement and changes this, and beginning with the fact that this rerouting and the restricted left-hand lane was not part of the original design that came out of a year's worth of community engagement. So now we have it. And then part of the original design when you added it involved some hardscaping that was actually supposed to create mitigation of that traffic. Right now, what I'm seeing is you have a crosswalk going to a playground that children will be using with nothing but hopes and prayers that cars will slow down to 15 miles per hour when they use what's ostensibly a slip lane. I mean, you keep referring to it as a right-hand turn. It's really just cars scooting off. And I can tell you, living in this neighborhood and living right around the corner and using that park, cars do not slow down. So I guess my question is, what happened to the hardscaping? I thought there was at least going to be a bump out, and that seems to be removed.
That's,
And then
hey, good evening. Sorry for interrupting. This is Othman. I manage the design for this project. We actually do have curb extensions and bulb outs in this area here. They are
real concrete bulb outs, not plastic.
yeah, these are
The plastic
these are
ones.
concrete bulb outs.
Okay, that's no, so that's good to know.
Yeah,
And then I
yeah.
guess and then originally it was only restricted during rush hour. And so now it's permanently restricted.
Correct. Yeah, so the cross
Why that
will be
change?
much narrower than it is currently, and also the turn is going to be harder to make for cars that are making a right.
Okay.
It's going to make them slow down much more than the conditions that they have today.
Okay. All right. And then, but so I guess what's the timeline that we're looking at as far as revisiting this and establishing whether or not it's actually working and whether or not it's safe?
Yeah, so this is what we looked at this specific intersectional lot, and we considered it to be a hotspot, and it's going to be monitored by our safety team as soon as the construction is complete, for probably 6 months or so. We will be assessing the speed, how the cars are quick turns and how parking is in that area, and how it's working out, and we're going to be monitoring it to make sure that we're going to be making the safest decision for the area.
And is that something you can present regular updates to us on?
Yep, I think we can do that. Yeah.
Okay, I think that would be really helpful. And certainly, I as I said, this is a crosswalk leading directly to a children's playground.
Right.
I know the church is very opposed to this. They've had several incidents of injuries with parishioners. So, it is comforting that you're going to be looking into it, but I think just making sure that we're getting updates on where we are on that regularly.
Yeah, we also looked into making this into a raised crosswalk.
Okay, yeah, no, I think I remember having the conversation. That was the other thing, that there was a raised crosswalk, but that
Yes.
is not happening.
But so we, after looking at it and talking about it with our safety team and our design team, we decided that, making the crosswalk shorter,
Mhm.
rollabouts on both sides, is safer than a raised crosswalk in that specific area. But that will be still something that we can look at.
Okay. Can I also ask, while what I'd really like to see is something like a hawk light put on that crosswalk, something that really alerts drivers to the change, the drop in the speed limit, but also just really grabs their attention.
Okay.
And I don't think that that's, yeah, I mean, I'd like to see a hawk light or some sort of pedestrian
I'm
beacon.
going to see whether we can do a study. It is warranted there or not. We can do an RFP study.
Okay, is that something that you can do before we start rerouting traffic?
Well,
Yes.
this contract for the construction for these projects is going to be underway soon, and contractually speaking, we cannot make any changes to the design. With the current, I guess, contract that we have. However, being the fact that we are the team that designed this project and we are also the safety team, we can have a separate study to look into. We can study the future condition, whether any type of rapid flashing beacon or hawk signal or anything is warranted in that area or in this specific intersection.
Okay.
And as soon as we can probably have something study in the next 4 to 6 months, and we'll make sure that we'll keep you in touch. And I'm sure that I think Spring has your contact info, and we'll reach out to you.
And because I just, when I'm seeing this 15-mile drop, I know in our school zones, we have flashing lights.
Mhm.
So on those signs to identify it as a decreased school zone, 15 mile per hour. Is there anything we can do to flag that speed limit drop?
Yes. Yeah, I think we can look into making an
Okay,
up on the signage over there.
okay, thank you.
While we're on that intersection, the bulb outs that you mentioned, are they on this design plan, or are they something that will be there but it's not on the plan right now?
They are on the design plan.
So is that little sort of bump out below the hatched red lines?
Yeah, Spring, can you please zoom in for me?
I can, okay. There we go. Is it showing up on your end? Everybody see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's zooming.
I don't know.
But
I don't know if you can. The sign that we have, that sign that Spring's cursor is on, it is hiding how the bulb out is. If you can see right at the start of the turn where number 22 is, right there, that's where the bulb out starts. So the darker font is the new curb, and the one that is lighter, a few feet behind it, is the existing curb. Can you see that, Spring? Can you hover with your mouse, with your cursor? Oh, the other side, actually. Yep. So the lighter to the left, your left a little bit. Yep. So that one is the existing curve, and the one that is darker font is the new curve.
I know the design is done, but it is. Is there? I'm going to ask why you didn't do the raised crosswalk and why it's a 20-foot. What would prevent you from making it a narrower crossing and therefore safer for people to get across?
Well,
Instead of 20 feet for one.
Pine Street has to be 20 feet because there's 2 travel lanes. So that's the logic behind that.
Okay.
And as far as the raised crosswalk, we just didn't think that it's the best way to deal with this, but it is still something that we'll be looking at as a mitigation strategy for later.
I'm sorry, you're having 2 lanes of traffic coming off onto Pine Street?
No, 1 lane, only 1 lane.
I mean, there's always some new change. There could
No, no, no,
be,
no,
I
no.
don't
This
know.
is,
Oh.
that would not be, no, I meant that Pine Street itself.
Okay,
Okay, so like it is now, so it's one lane, but a 20-foot crosswalk?
Yep.
Any
Hey,
way that
this
could
is-
be made smaller with concrete?
This
Yep.
is David from the council member's office. I think to ask a version of the same question, I think. Thank you for pointing out the curb extension on, I guess it would be the east
That was
side there.
Yep.
But, you know, I think currently the west side of Pine is used as parking, whether or not it's signed for that. And I do see here that, you know, it's now no standing or parking anytime. But then you're also saying it's one travel lane. So I'm a little bit confused about what the arrangement on Pine is going to be. Because if parking is restricted there, are we effectively saying that that's a 18-20 foot single travel lane?
I
So
was wondering something
Brent,
similar
correct me if
too.
I'm
Thank you,
wrong.
David.
the parking on the north side, or I guess on the west side, which is now, there's no signage there, people can park and it's not regulated. Now we're adding signage to not allow any parking there. And I think, I don't remember this specifically, but I think there's church parking on Sundays on the other side of the street. Is that correct, Spring?
I believe
no.
I wanted to share something with you all.
It looks like it.
They don't do parking on the east side. So is that something, so right now I'm seeing that there is no exception even for Sundays for church parking.
So actually, this is something that we looked at a lot. It is not legal for DC government to have except church parking signs, and we ran into that problem in other parts of the city.
Okay.
I
I
know
mean,
that
what's the
signage
reasoning for getting rid of that parking?
across on the west side.
Right, and I understand that I don't think it was ever supposed to be parking, but I
Right,
guess the
yeah.
question is, I mean, again, like you know,
Well, I think it's a great question. I was also confused looking at this, why now we had such a wide street that I assume doesn't encourage, you know, slower driving. Why
Right.
wouldn't you just keep the informal parking and formalize that?
mhm.
Something I wanted to also share with you, just a little bit more detail on this intersection here. So I'm going to stop sharing this. And I'm going to try to share something else. So just one second. Do that. And show all windows. Let's see. Just a second, there's too many windows open. Just one second here. And it's, oh, this, no, that's not it. Here we go. Here it is. All right. I'm going to share that. Can you see that? This gives a little bit more.
That's much better. Thank you.
Yeah, so I guess the
Okay.
crowding of the signage there makes it really hard to see, but this is the improvement that's going to be taking place. Thank you, Spring.
So
Um,
what are we ending up with in that crosswalk distance?
Go back to the design. Just a second. So you see this. Now I'm going to go back to the design. So it'll take just a second. Share. All right, that's easier to find. Okay. All right, so this is the crosswalk. Othman, do you want to talk through that?
Yeah, so we extended the curb by a few feet. I don't recall exactly how many feet, but it's going to be a much narrower crosswalk for pedestrians.
So thank you for the clearer depiction there. I think I'm just still a little bit confused here. Because, well, first of all, just the travel lane once you're driving onto Pine. If I'm understanding this correctly, with the exception of Sundays, it will effectively be treated as one travel lane with no parking on either side. Is that right? Like, what's the curb to curb width there on a typical weekday?
I think it's 20 feet, but I don't have it in front of me for sure. But I think it's 20. It should
But
be.
that's wild because that's twice the width of a typical travel lane. So effectively, it's two travel lanes turning into one left turn onto Park. So
Right.
that seems like really potentially not great.
But if we have parking on Sundays, we can just eliminate the other 10 feet or anything else. We have to allow for traffic to pass through Pine Streets on Sundays.
Well, no. So I'm not disputing that, but I think the sentiment I'm hearing is if it's always going to be one travel lane no matter what, but it's just going to be either a 20-foot or a 10-foot travel lane, why not just have it consistently be a 10-foot travel lane?
Yeah. That sounds much safer.
No, we're asking why
Well,
can't we get rid of the parking permanently.
Right.
You also, my understanding
I-
from what was just said was that there won't even be parking for Sunday because you can't do that.
I think that Commissioner Miller, I think that's referring to like a First Amendment issue where you can't say church parking.
Oh, you just can't
Sunday
say it. Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah, we can allow parking on Sundays, but not
Okay,
explicitly say church.
Right. So I can share also Google Maps here. We're not removing any parking so for the corridor, we're removing parking on both sides of the street during the peak period. So AM peak, PM peak, 7 to 10, 4 or 3:30 to 7. And then let me see if I can stop sharing that. All these screens open and I want to show them to you. Trying to get like quick and fast virtually. Okay, so let's see. Let's stop sharing this and start sharing that. And then let's see if I have, does it pull up Google Maps? No, I think it works when I have Chrome open, but not Internet Explorer. So let's see if we can just go to the regular. Oh, here we go. I did have Chrome open. Okay. So here, so the cars are parked on this side. And what often was referring to is that there's no parking except Sundays, 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. So during our rush period, cars wouldn't be allowed to park in front of the church. You know, if I'm going too fast here, wouldn't be allowed to park in front of the church. But on the opposite side, so David, that makes the street narrower because there's parking permitted on the west side, getting my directions right, on the west side, but not the east side, between 6 and 10 p.m. And the bus lanes are 7 to 10 a.m. in the morning and 3:30 to 7 in the evening. And the parking isn't permitted from 6 to 10 except Sundays. So Sundays, parking can be filled, but the buses are in operation Monday through Friday.
So Spring, and I want to make sure I'm prefacing this with like, our office and the council member are like super excited about this project. You know, we've wanted to see it for a long time, and I think you all have done really great work on a lot of this. This is still not quite computing for me. So I understand what you were saying there, but what I'm seeing from the current design is that, you know, I should say the final design. So that west side parking that you see in the street view there is being taken away permanently, right?
Let me go back to the design and let's look at that. Let me just go back to that. So let me stop sharing here. Open up, getting faster. Okay.
Thank you, David. That's how I was reading it too. I'm confused.
No standing or parking anytime. These are the signs that you're referring to, right?
Yes.
Here.
Yes. So I don't know what the current rules are there, but basically the new signage will clarify that there's no parking anytime on the west side. And then on the east side, it seems to be maintaining the current rule, which is no parking except for Sundays.
Yeah.
So I'm still not quite understanding why. Basically, that is creating, except for a couple of hours on Sundays, one 20-foot wide travel lane that then feeds into one. It looks like maybe like, I think it's like a 9-foot wide lane that then goes onto Park Road. So that seems excessively wide for the goal of improving that crossing. I'm glad that curb extension is there. But I think something needs to be clarified about that parking. I don't want to like leapfrog the analysis that needs to be done there, but I think what might make sense would be just keep the west side parking permanently, and maybe use that opportunity to shorten the crossing distance even further.
Yeah, we'll take a look at this. I will also say that 16th Street is a truck route, and we do have buses that will be coming this street. And so there are trucks. I hesitated because I don't know if the buses are being rerouted, able to take a left at Park Road, but we'll review and give you and respond.
Okay, thank you. I mean,
Great.
if there's a freight route that requires 20-foot lanes, I haven't heard of it yet in DC. So I'd look forward to talking about that. And then I guess just my final point here, and I'm sorry, like we're really hammering this, but again, glad to see the curb extension. I think the conversations that we had in the past was that the curb extension could also function as hardening the angle of that turn. I think Commissioner Miller was sort of expressing that. And it seems like there's a hardscape curb extension plus what looks like some striping and bollards or flex posts, if I'm seeing that right. But that's still combined, like still adds up to a pretty aggressive turn angle there. So I think that's just that is what was being got at there. Like I'm glad that the safety team is going to look into that. But I think it's a challenge that this is the curb widths we're ending up here, and that the crossing is like probably not going to follow the desired path there, if that makes sense.
Thanks for sharing that. I don't know, Othman, if you have any immediate response to that. We will look into this, look into the concerns that you just raised.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think this is something that we will keep on looking at, especially once once we make those changes on I guess on the right turn. But yeah, thank you for the comments.
Thank you, Osmond and Spring. I know we've discussed this a few times. I think we have the dual priorities here of like wanting to make sure that we're serving our transit riders well in having this be done sometime this century, but also making sure that we're addressing some points like this appropriately. So happy to continue that conversation.
That makes sense.
Questions? Thank you, David.
Commissioner Miller, did you have other questions about this or comments?
No, but I do think there are some things I'd like to have followed up on, including the lane width, the parking, looking into hawk lights or flagging the 15-mile-per-hour decrease. And I also really, I'd like to know when we start those safety assessments. I assume it's going to be after the bus lanes are completed.
Yeah, we can follow up with you on that. I just was taking down notes here on the things that for follow-ups for us. Like I mentioned before, the design is completed and we're getting close to beginning construction, but this is good feedback for us.
Thank you.
This is outside the scope of 1A and frankly Ward 1 in general, but just out of curiosity, are there any changes to reflect 16th Street as it's arranged right now between, what is it, I guess H and K with Black Lives Matter Plaza, which is currently closed to traffic? Is the idea that that's not permanent now?
So that area is currently closed. We will evaluate at the point of construction. The mayor has publicly said that the Black Lives Matter area will reopen to traffic, but we don't have any further guidance at this point to share.
Okay, I realize that
We
is like
have,
the most
more
insane
guidance,
possible
which is-
curveball here.
Yeah, so that's correct. That the project, so everybody's familiar, the project southern boundary is H Street Northwest, and the Black Lives Matter Plaza is from H to K Street. And right now that is mostly closed off, those intersections. But once we begin, and have more details, like direction on that from like the mayor's office, we will announce that.
Hi, this is Hunter Kim from DDOT. Just like what Springs explained, once we have a contract on board, we are going to discuss to postpone the work right at those sections until we get further clearance from our management and the mayor's office. Until then, we are not planning to go into the section to start any work at this moment, even as part of this project. So that's, I just want to let everyone know.
Thank you, Hunter. I appreciate you sharing those details. I also wanted to share, because I forgot to mention earlier when I was talking about updates. So I said full red paint, as I showed you. The PM peak period is changing from 4 to 7:30 to 3 to 7 to accommodate traffic. And then there's one other thing at 16th and Colorama. It's not part of this project. It is a separate project. There is, I believe it's a hawk signal that's going up there in the spring 2021. That's outside of your area, but it's still along the corridor, just going south, closer to the park, Malcolm X, Meridian Hill Park. So that will be happening. That's under design right now. It's separate from this project, but it's still on the corridor.
Thank you, Spring. Yeah, I just asked because that was our other priority area to make sure there were appropriate pedestrian accommodation. So very happy about that.
Spring and related team members, would you mind going over the intersection of Spring Road and 16th and just talk about some of the safety features there? Because I know we've had, unfortunately, many complaints of, especially during reversible lane times, vehicles getting into accidents, turning off onto wrong lanes. And if you could talk about some of the pedestrian safety up there too.
Your screens, let me, just 1 second here. I'm gonna stop sharing because somehow that got minimized, and I will start sharing again. Okay. Share that. You all should see. So 16th and Park, that's Monroe. This is in the middle. Get this so that I can see. All right. Spring Road. Okay, let me minimize it a little bit just so that I can get this situated on the side here. Okay, so there were questions that you had about 16th and Spring. Are you thinking the bus stop? Move that over a little bit. At 3636
Correct.
at the Woodner.
Yeah.
That's Piney Branch. So that bus stop is actually, I think it's like, you. All right, Spring Place. It's like very close to here. You're seeing it.
Yeah, I know it's not my SMD, but I know residents between Spring Place and Spring Road were wondering about safety in their area.
Right. So there was a decision made a couple of years ago that one of the recommendations from, so everybody has familiarity on what we're talking about. So 3636 16th Street is the Woodner apartment building. There's a bus stop with 2 bus shelters in front of that location. It might even be helpful if I shared this via Google Maps. In fact, I can do that and then come back to this. There's a bus stop at that location, 2 bus shelters. It's a high ridership stop. The concerns that were expressed. All right, so let's get back. The concerns that were expressed, this is the Woodner. All right, my screen is like, maybe if I just put in this. Concerns that were expressed were about bus riders, pedestrians crossing in front of, crossing the street to get to the stop. And we looked at this project, looked at what it would take in order for us to relocate the stop a little bit north. So this is the Woodner. I scroll out, but not pick up this. Okay. All right, so this is the bus stop. Everybody sees that now. And the concern over the years has been that people are crossing. So like crossing here to get to this bus. So you see the bus coming and you cross at an unsignalized crosswalk. That makes sense. And then the next place where there's a signal is up here at Spring Road before you go over the bridge and get to Arkansas. So what we looked at was possibly moving the stop to the other side of this intersection, but this is a big drop off here into Rock Creek Park. And in order to do that, it would have taken longer for us to move forward with the design and construction of this project because of the environmental process. But it's still an action item for this corridor to look at a separate project to build a retaining wall to allow enough space so that it's ADA accessible and move the stop closer to the signal. We did look at putting in a flashing beacon or hawk signal at this location, but because it's so close to the light, there were some traffic implications or restrictions on doing that. However, this is still important area to move, important takeaway from this project to relocate the bus stop to a signalized crosswalk because of the pedestrians that are crossing from these buildings here or just from across the street and to get to this stop here.
So I guess just as a follow-up, I know you say as a future project, is there anything on the books for that? Is there any sort of timeline or is it just hypothetical?
This is on our list of projects to work on, bus stop list. We can figure out the phasing. That's another takeaway that I can provide to you, the phasing for when we could evaluate this further. And I'll write that down as like in addition to the Sacred Heart and 16th Street intersection to follow up on the 16th and Spring Road bus stop relocation.
Thank you. That was another safety concern. I want to make sure I can report back to the commissioners up there what's going on.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that out. And just while I'm looking at my notes, I have like 1,000 screens open, but you probably got that sense. Christine, so you would like for us to look at the lane width, a hawk light, parking, and safety assessments at 16th and Sacred Heart. Is that right? Did I forget anything?
No, that's what I have in mind. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, all right. And then for 16th and Spring Road, the bus stop relocation timeline. Got that in here. Okay. Sure I got that right. And then I will stop sharing that and I can see everybody. Okay.
All right, Spring, I did want to add, in addition to a hawk light or a flashing beacon, also something along the 15-mile-per-hour speed drop, if there's a way we can have flashers for that as well.
All right, so flasher.
We're putting together a wish list.
Yeah, no, that's good. I'm taking it down. Like I said, the design has closed and we're moving to construction, but we are, I'm still taking this down for things for us to evaluate. Okay, all right, I wrote that down. Are there any other questions?
Hey, I would just like to add for David and Christine, and I'm sorry, I don't know your name, Mr. ANC1A. This corridor is really important to us in the safety team. We want to make sure that this is a successful project and successful bus corridor for all the users, not just the buses. And even if certain elements on the wish list have not been fully resolved in this design as it is currently, there will be further smaller studies in specific areas to make sure that we address all the needs that we have.
I want to just quickly say, I want to echo also what David said. We're also very excited for this project. We know the value, having consistent bus service, it serves so many in our community. But what we're really talking about are issues of safety. And for us, who not just represent our residents, but are also residents in this community as well, that's a priority. So we're not talking about, we want to change the color of a lamppost. We're talking about issues of safety and our children, not to mention everybody else. I mean, this is right across from a playground. It's right across from a church. We have had injuries. So we want to make sure, because a study that was done by and for DDOT did identify not having that left-hand turn as a safety issue. So we're trying to understand how going against your own recommendations is now safe. So I want to be very clear. We're also very excited about the corridor, and this issue is really separate from, we're not trying to be obstructionist. We're trying to make sure that our residents are not injured or killed.
Right. No, I agree, and I do share your concern. And what I will say is that I will put this general area back in our purview, and I will reach out back to you through Spring in the next couple of months about what I will be looking at left turn, at the width of Pine Street, and of course at the crosswalk.
Thank you. I do appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem.
I also want to say, I just wrote in the chat that the hawk signal at 16th and Colorado, I know I said this verbally, but just for folks that are following the chat, that is a separate project. It's not part of the 16th Street bus lanes project, but it is happening along the corridor. We're in the process of designing it now and implementing it in this spring. So you won't see it in the design plans as you look through it closely, but you will, it is a separate project that's happening. So just to be mindful of that.
Besides the slip lane at Pine near Park and besides people crossing to the bus stop in front of the Widner, are there any other spots here that you think are, I don't know, potential safety issues that are like worth watching or worth keeping an eye on?
One of the, trying to think about this, along the corridor, we are making improvements at several of the bus stops. We've made improvements so that we're extending the bus zone so that buses can adequately get over to the curb and passengers can safely get on and off the bus. That's especially important now because there's rear door boarding only during COVID. So we have extended the bus zone and that helps with safety for both motorists so the bus can fully pull over and the vehicle can get around the bus, and also for passengers that are getting on and off the bus. I know a concern that we pointed out earlier was the crosswalk at Mount Pleasant. That has been a request for many years, and that's being incorporated into this project. And we are trying to think if there's anything additional. No, I think everything has been covered either in the presentations, and I think like a good overview is the pamphlet with like what we've recommended and what pretty much what is moving forward in construction.
Thank you.
Spring, do you mind talking about, and I know we actually haven't touched on this yet, enforcement of the bus lanes, because as we're seeing on 14th Street and as we guessed, I know it's a different beast on 14th because of the commercial activity in our neighborhood, but can you talk about how district government is going to take a look at making sure that the bus lanes operate as they should be?
Yep. So one of the recommendations from the planning study from 2016 and then this bus lanes project has been camera enforcement along the bus lane corridor. So automated traffic enforcement, camera enforcement of the lanes. We installed a camera pilot earlier this year on I Street Northwest at 16th Street so that we could learn as how the cameras work. New York City has been really effective in camera enforcement of their bus lanes, and we also would like to do that of our bus lanes. So we did a camera pilot earlier this year at I and 16th Street with the closure of that intersection because of the Black Lives Matter Plaza installation. We have now moved that pilot to Georgia Avenue, Georgia and Berry. I believe that's the intersection along where the bus lanes are on Georgia. And we are using this as an opportunity to, we're working with a couple of camera vendors, and we're using this as an opportunity for us to learn how the cameras work and how they can be effective for DC. It's still part of our goal for this project to install cameras along the 16th Street corridor. And we hope to begin to be able to implement that once this construction is completed. So the district is looking at camera enforcement of our bus lanes. And we've been working closely in partnership with WMATA on that initiative too.
And I'm also wondering, because I know this has been an issue in our neighborhood, what types of, I guess, education or training for other types of, or other district government vehicles do you anticipate will be given? Parking enforcement, MPD vehicles, folks like that, that often are using curb space on these streets.
We do have an enforcement meeting that we have with the parking enforcement team in the district. So to include DPW, who does parking enforcement, and also with MPD, which is enforcement, to discuss these issues with the bus lanes. This was of particular interest with the car-free lanes that we installed this summer, the lane that we installed on MLK Avenue, and we meet with them regularly, monthly, to talk about these issues so that they, I think with the bus lanes being installed, there's more visibility if you travel down those corridors. So that, and so folks are more familiar with the bus lanes and also are aware of that, you know, we don't want folks to stop or to travel in the lanes. So I will say that emergency vehicles, our bus lane policy does allow emergency vehicles to travel in the bus lanes.
Thank you. That's all I have just for folks. If you had anything else to add. Nothing? Well, I really do want to thank, I didn't expect so many folks from DDOT on the meeting tonight, but I really do appreciate your time, Spring, and everyone else for all the action items and follow up. Please do just keep us in the loop throughout all of this. I know it's something that was an issue of concern earlier, and we really do appreciate the open and honest communication that you've had.
Great, thank you. Glad to be here. We're really excited about this project. I've
This
been
is
working on it for 4 years, so I'm excited to see it come to fruition.
This is, going to a DDOT meeting on 16th Street was what introduced me and got me interested in ANC work to begin with. So thank you. I appreciate it. Everyone, I know just as an issue of time, I don't want to keep us too late this evening. So I'll follow up electronically regarding the Move DC mobility priority lanes or corridors that I know I wanted to talk about later. So I'll just send that out via email, and maybe if there are folks that want to discuss in more detail, I'll set up a call. I'm seeing David's comment that he was in middle school when planning for this started. I'll follow up electronically about Move DC because I know folks are interested. So, but yeah, thank you again. And everyone, don't forget, November 12th, we are having a special meeting to talk about the Crosstown project with other folks from DDOT joining us. And I know we have paper flyering going out in the community with other commissioners, and I sent around an electronic version, so feel free to share with friends or residents might be interested. So have a good night.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, Dottie. Thank you. Thanks, Tim.